Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sonia Osorio, president of the National Organization for Women in New York, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you all for being here. We have with us today Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, our host, the Educational Alliance's Manning Castro Center, Congressman Adriano Espaillat, Senator John Brooks, Assemblymember Amy Pollin, Assemblymember Carmen de la Rosa, Assemblymember Natalia Fernandez, Assemblymember David Weprin, Assemblymember Joseph Lenthal, Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance, Queensborough President Melinda Katz. I'm so honored to be here today. We are taking an important step forward for justice and human rights. And from day one, we've had partners in Albany. Governor Cuomo, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, and Assemblymember Amy Pollin. Assemblywoman, if we could clone you, you know that we would. You are a tenacious and effective lawmaker, and you have really been the backbone. You've worked tirelessly to improve New York's response to human trafficking. Thank you. And Lieutenant Governor, thank you for being a champion of women's rights. You have never wavered in your convictions on women's rights. We can't afford to have leaders who aren't quite sure where they stand on women's rights. You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose which rights women should have, especially now. There's too much at stake. Dorchen Lighthold, is she here? We all know Dorchen. A big thanks to her and her team of legal warriors at Sanctuary for Families, the largest women's rights organization helping domestic violence victims and victims of trafficking in the state of New York. And Governor, you have delivered for the women and girls of this state, year in and year out. Thank you so very much for your leadership. Today marks yet another important step in our shared fight for equality and justice. Thank you. Under Governor Cuomo's leadership, we've made extraordinary progress protecting and expanding women's rights. That couldn't be more important right now. President Trump and his appointees are passionate about unraveling the progress we have made. We've got to be just as passionate to hold the line, to push forward, to pay attention, and to make it very clear who runs this country, and that's us. So Governor Cuomo is building a legacy of real change here, raised the minimum wage. 2/3 of minimum wage workers are women. Paid family leave. Just this year, we've passed the strongest gun safety laws in the country, making sure that batterers don't have guns anymore. The Enough is Enough initiative to reduce sexual assault on campus. Governor Cuomo has made it harder for bosses to get away with sexual harassment or to fire someone for getting pregnant. The governor doesn't just talk about equality, he makes it happen. So please join me in welcoming Governor Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Are we excited to be here today? Is this working? Are we excited to be here today? Okay. It is going to be a great day, and we're signing a great piece of legislation, and it's really my pleasure to be here. Sonia Osorio, she has been such a tenacious and effective advocate. You can be tenacious and you can be effective, but they're two different things. She puts them together. She is tenacious and she is effective. Let's give a big round of applause to Sonia Sario and all. Now, we have our own in-house tenacious and effective advocate, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. Let's give her a round of applause. I want to thank Congressman Adriano Espaillat for being here. He's going to take this bill. He's going to go down to Washington. He's going to get it passed like this. Adriano Espaillat. All right, it's actually not that easy to get this kind of bill passed. But someday, maybe next year. Borough President Melinda Katz, thank you very much for all the work you do. District Attorney Cy Vance, who is going to make this, District Attorney Cy Vance, who's going to make the enforcement of this law a priority. We thank you very much. We thank you for being here. Amy Paulin is the sponsor. It was very hard to pass this bill. She did not give up. She kept coming and coming and coming. And that's the way change happens. Amy Paulin. We also have our other colleagues from Albany who supported this bill and worked very hard. I'd ask them to stand as I call their name. Joe Lentol, David Weprin, Natalia Fernandez, Carmen De La Rosa, John Brooks. Thank you all. Rebecca Seawright, thank you all very much. Thank you. Let me make a sort of broader point before we get to the specific of the issue, because as Sonia was saying, the specific that we accomplished today is important, but actually it's more important given the context that we are in. My job as governor has changed dramatically over the past year or so. It basically comes down to two jobs now. One, I protect New York against storms, hurricanes, floods, terrorism. Yesterday, we were in upstate New York. We had flash floods all across upstate New York. It was all across the Northeast. Different kinds of storms. They come from small but intense weather cells that can drop a tremendous amount of rain, cause immediate flooding, and literally wipe out homes, etc. We never dealt with anything like it before because it's so small and intense, and this is a big state, 54,000 square miles. It can pop up anywhere. So it's challenging. The second part of the job is protecting the state of New York against the attacks from President Trump. Now, with the storms, it's hard because it's like whack-a-mole because you don't know where they're going to hit next. They could hit anywhere. And then you have to respond. President Trump, it's not that hard to figure out where he's going to attack. Because if you listen to his words and you watch his actions, you know where he's going to go. He wanted a wall on the southern border, a big wall, a strong wall, gold letters on the wall. He wanted a wall. He said he wanted it in the campaign from day one. He wanted to keep those people out. He didn't get the wall. So what did he do when he didn't get the wall? He set up a gauntlet. And he said to people who were thinking about coming over the border, if you come over that border, maybe there's no wall, but if you come over that border, I'm going to treat you with such indecency and inhumanity that you're going to wish you never stepped over that border, and you're going to go home and tell everybody else, don't you dare try to step over that border. I'm going to go so far that I'm going to take your children from your arms. And then I'm going to send them to some place in the country that you don't even know about. And then I'm not going to be able to even reunite you because the situation will have been so chaotic. That's what he did. And that's what he said he was going to do. Charlottesville, the white supremacist march. Well, there are good people on both sides. No, Mr. President, there are no good white supremacists. That does not happen. But when you say that as president, you send a signal that that kind of behavior is okay, that that is tolerable. And you know what happens? Now we have a 92% increase in the past 2 years of anti-Semitic attacks in this state. We have a 22% increase in the number of neo-Nazi groups in this country. Why? Because that's the signal that he sent. He gets angry at his political enemies, and he lashes out. That's what he does. So it's no surprise that when they passed the Tax Reform Act last December, they put a penalty for the states that voted against them. Think about it. A penalty for the states that voted against them. 12 states, all Democratic, all states that in the tax bill lose the deductibility of state and local taxes for the first time since the income tax was set up under Abraham Lincoln. All Democratic, all states that Trump lost. Why? Because that's who he is. And that's what he said. He swore allegiance to the NRA. Bought and paid for. So, what does he do after Parkland? Nothing. What does he do after Santa Fe? Nothing. What does he do after 222 mass shootings this year alone? Absolutely nothing. No surprise. He told you, I'm bought and paid for by the NRA. He's pro-management. So don't be surprised when he passed the Janus case in the Supreme Court to try to end labor unions. He's pro-corporation and pro-rich, so don't be surprised when he passes the tax reform plan that gives 80% of the benefit to the top 1%. He's pro-energy companies and oil and gas. So don't be surprised when he pulls out of the Paris Climate Accords, when he objects to the emission standards, and when he says we're going to do offshore drilling off the shore of New York. He is obvious. He shows you where he's going, and he showed you on day one in that campaign when he said, we're going to make America great again. He has it on his hat. Make America great again. What does that mean? We're going to go back to a time when America was great. Right? Great again. The whole concept is it's retrospective. When do you want to go back to, Mr. President? What was the great time that you want to take us back to when America was great? Before the environmental protection movement? Before marriage equality, when it was just a man and a woman? Before these new immigrants started to come across the border, and before the women's equality movement. That's when America was great in his head. He wants to take us back to that point, when women had traditional roles. Just listen and watch, and you will see where he's going. Look at the disrespect he's shown women. Over and over and over again. He's in a fight with a woman who did a book, Omarosa. What happens? She's a dog. Senator Warren, Pocahontas, Hillary Clinton, Crooked Hillary, Maxine Waters, Congresswoman, great spokesperson. She's a low IQ. Carly Fiorina, Republican woman. At least he doesn't discriminate by party. Look at that face. Who would vote for her? This is what he says about a woman running for president. Meryl Streep, she criticized him, the most overrated actress in Albany. Miss Universe criticized him. She's Miss Piggy. Go back to when, Mr. President? What great days. But that's what he's doing. He appointed a cabinet. The cabinet he appointed was a cabinet reflective of where we were 40 years ago. Fewer women in his cabinet than any time in 40 years since Ronald Reagan. Look at his appointments. He appointed 65 U.S. attorneys. How many women? 5. 101 federal court appointments. How many women? 29. Supreme Court. You have 3 women out of 9 on the Supreme Court. You have the chance to appoint a new Supreme Court judge. 3 women out of 9. What are you going to do? You'd appoint a woman to balance the court. He appoints 2 white men looking at a Supreme Court with 3 women out of 9. That's who he is. And that is what he says, and that is what he does, and that is the reality we are dealing with. An ugly, painful reality. But you know what? You're never going to solve a problem that you don't understand. And it's actually helpful to define the enemy and know what we're fighting. That's what we are fighting. An attitude that disrespects women, that disrespects immigration, that has a different view of this country and wants to take us back. New York, we're the exact opposite. New York, we look at what he's trying to do and we are repulsed. It's not our values. It's not how we live. Look at this room. You want to be against immigration? We're all immigrants. By the way, in this nation, unless you're a Native American, you are an immigrant. Try looking in a mirror. Go back to when women were discriminated against and women's place was in the home. We're not going back. We're going forwards. And women are going forwards. You look at where we are today. "57% of college students are female. 47% of all workers in the nation are female. 60% of doctors under 35 years old are female." Now, how does New York lead the way going forward? We stop victimizing women, stop excluding women, stop minimizing women, stop objectifying women, stop discriminating against women. New York is going to be the alternative state to Trump's America. He's going that way, and we're going this way. He wants a new Supreme Court judge because he wants to roll back Roe v. Wade. That's what he wants to do. That's his view of the world. We want a new legislature and a new Senate because we want to codify Roe v. Wade in the state of New York. He's limiting women's participation in the workforce. We want to raise the Minority and Women Business Enterprise Program. We're already at 30%, the highest in the nation, and we want to raise it even higher. He wants to keep women out of the workforce. We just passed the best paid family leave program in the United States of America, so a woman can have a family and a woman can work. We just passed the best child care affordability program in the United States of America and a child care tax credit because we understand the financial burden of working women. He wants to continue discriminating and pushing women back into their traditional role. We want to bring them in, and we want total equity and total parity, and that's why we passed pay equity. $1 for a man is $1 for a woman, period. And while he turned a blind eye to the Me Too movement, which was a moment of a social revolution where thousands of women took the courage and put themselves out there and talked about things that embarrassed them, that made them feel bad about themselves, that they lived with for a lot of years, but for the common good. Out of an act of courage, they came forward and they spoke. And that was the Me Too movement, because they wanted to see change. And all they got was a deaf ear from President Trump and Washington, but New York passed the strongest sexual harassment law in the United States of America. The same thing when it was revealed the scourge of sexual assaults on college campuses and how universities too often try to cover it up and try to blame the woman and make the woman feel bad about herself and suggest that the woman somehow invited the behavior because the university doesn't want the bad press. So they tried to cover it up. And New York passed Enough is Enough, which is the strongest law protecting women and girls on college campuses, because we're not covering up anything. You abuse a woman, the woman is a victim, and you are a perpetrator. Period. Period. No woman invites sexual abuse ever. Period. And today, my friends, we're going to pass a bill and sign a bill, because you passed the bill. So all I have to do is sign the bill that says sex trafficking, which most usually involves girls, is a felony in the state of New York. And if you do it, you're going to jail for a long time. And DAs like Cy Vance are going to stand up and they're going to enforce it. And New York is going to set a standard. Thank you. And look, the simple point is all this comes down to this. We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American is fully engaged. We will reach greatness when discrimination and stereotyping against women, 51% of our population, is gone, and every woman's full potential is realized and unleashed, and every woman is making her full contribution. When that happens, this nation is going to be taken even higher, because we have not yet fully liberated the women in this country. And we will. And New York will lead the way, and watch New York rise. Thank you, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul.
Now, after all that, aren't you really glad you live in the great state of New York with this governor? There is no elected official in the entire United States of America who has used the power of their office to fight back against the Trump administration the way our governor, Andrew Cuomo, has. And we are so fortunate to have him fighting on our behalf, not just for New Yorkers, but for all Americans. We have made tremendous progress. From fighting for reproductive health, to protecting women in the workplace, to ensuring our college campuses are safe. But it didn't happen by itself. It happened because we had true leadership, and I'm so proud to be part of an administration that is such a champion for women, children, and families. But after all the assaults coming out of Washington, we know we have so much more work to do. And I can't tell you how many times I talk to people who are just grateful that they don't live in the other 49 states. I won't disparage them, but I am a New Yorker. But what we're doing here today is a continuation of our efforts to protect particularly vulnerable young women. And I'm a mother, but my daughter's getting a little bit older. But I have young teenage nieces who their mother has already found people trying to penetrate the security of their own computers and cell phones in our homes. These people are after our daughters, our nieces, our children. Make no mistake about it. And the message after today, with the leadership of the governor and Assembly Member Amy Paulin, who never gave up, the message is, you're a predator, you want to go after children, you stay away from the state of New York because you've got tough laws that are going to take you down. So I thank you, Assembly Member Paulin, for channeling your own personal story and realizing that so many young people, 13, 14, 15, are particularly vulnerable. And to all the other advocates here today and the legislators who are coming together to send that strong message, I thank you on behalf of all women of the state of New York. And I want to at this point recognize and invite up Assemblymember Amy Paulin to tell her story and what led her to the place we are today. But also I did want to recognize we've been joined by two other Assembly members, Nathalia Fernandez and Carmen De La Rosa. Are you here as well? I want to make sure we didn't. These are, talk about strong, influential women in our state assembly. You're looking at two of them right there. Assemblymember Amy Paulin, thank you.
Wow, this is a great, great day. Great day. Right now, as I stand here and as we all are together, there are girls out on the streets of New York that are being raped every day, 10 to 20 times a day. And today, we don't sit idle. We are doing something about it. We are here to do something about our girls. In 2007, New York State made history. We became the first state to specifically outlaw human trafficking. In 2008, we passed Safe Harbor, recognizing that 14 and 15-year-old victims were victims. They were not prostitutes and not criminals. In 2014, we expanded Safe Harbor to 16 and 17-year-olds. In 2015, we passed the landmark law, the Trafficking Victims Protection and Justice Act. Thank you, Governor. Today, we build on our legacy. First, we're expanding that landmark law. Because of a requirement to prove force or coercion, prosecutors told us how difficult it was to convict traffickers on the most serious charges without re-traumatizing victims by forcing them to confront their captors in court. Moreover, these emotionally vulnerable children were manipulated and threatened, further complicating the prosecutor's hand. Today, we're taking the need to prove force or coercion out of the law for these children, strengthening our ability to put these horrible predators in prison. Next, New York will become an innovator in discreetly getting information to victims about services available to help them escape their lives of captivity. We worked closely with the hotel industry and advocates to come up with the idea to require cards with a hotline number be placed in public restrooms, guest rooms, and near the public entrances. They will be small and discreet cards, so a victim may take one unnoticed and use it to call for help at a later time. No other state is tackling this problem the way we are doing so today, and we are very proud of that. And finally, we're making our court system better able to help both victims and to prosecute traffickers. Today, we're taking these next steps to hold predatory child sex traffickers accountable to the fullest extent of the law and help our children who were victimized. I want to say a few thank yous. First, to the Speaker for his steadfast commitment, and to my colleagues for making this such an important priority. Thank you. To my Senate partner, Andy Lanza, who could not be here today. To the district attorney's offices, thank you. Without you, we could not have really explained the case for this bill, nor come up with the words to make it happen. Thank you. To the community advocates, all of you, and to the survivors that are here. You've given us the inspiration and the courage to keep on this battle. And I want to single out Dorchen Lighthall and Sonia Osorio for being my partners and being my support system for every single bill we have been able to accomplish in New York. Thank you. To the Lieutenant Governor for her support, her commitment, her encouragement, and for being a spokesperson for women and girls throughout the state of New York. Thank you so much. And most of all, I want to thank the governor. Throughout his tenure, he has made eradicating human trafficking a priority and made sure New York is the #1 state addressing this heinous crime against our children. Without his leadership, without his commitment, without him in the position that he's in, we would not be here today. So thank you so much. Again, a great day for New York. Thank you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Reverend Q. English, CEO and founder of Not on My Watch.
Woo! Well, first, I want to say thank you, Governor Cuomo, for your leadership. Thank you. And thank you, Assemblymember Paulin, for your leadership on women issues ongoingly. I also want to thank, in his absence, my speaker, Carl Hasty, from my assemblyman in my district, for continuing to be a champion on these issues. I do have to do a shout out to my BFF, Dorchen Lighthall from Sanctuary for Families, my sister in the winning struggle, and all of the members of Not on My Watch. So today's legislation upholds the belief that our children and their families have a right to live with self-respect and dignity without re-victimization by their serial rapists and pimps. And as the CEO and founder of Not on My Watch, an anti-trafficking, anti-domestic organization, and as the convener of Traffic Free NYC, the city's only coalition of city agencies and service providers and survivors working together for the sole purpose of combating human trafficking, it has been my honor to work alongside survivors, lawmakers, and Governor Cuomo to address this injustice in our laws and to protect women and girls in our state. It is clear that Governor Cuomo is committed to building a fairer, safer, and more just future for our children. Under Governor's leadership, New York has achieved historic criminal justice reform and once again becomes a progressive beacon for the nation. In my closing, I want to say that I stand here with every survivor, every parent, loved one, sister, brother, and guardian of survivors, and with those who lost their loved ones to trafficking. I stand to let you know that we will continue to fight alongside you until justice has cried her last tear. You are indeed why we are here today. So thank you again, Governor, and thank you all, to all of our partners here for your tireless efforts that made this day possible. Right now, I want you to give yourselves a hand because we all did this together. So now, Governor, let's sign that bill.
Go that way. Just cue them up that way. Yeah, grab the three of them